Hello there, Peppermint Pals. So, a few weeks ago, Doodle Date released a video about art block, and this kind of inspired me to do my own video about art block. Now, this is going to be a more personal video. It's not really kind of an editorial about what is art block or does it exist, because I think it's different for everyone, and I really don't want to invalidate other people's experiences. So this is going to be more about the different ways that I experience art block. So you may have different names for these things, or you might experience different types of art block. You might deal with things in a different way when you get art block, and that's all valid. I'm making this video to get a little personal, but also to kind of continue the discussion. So if you feel so inclined to make your own video about art block or just comment, I highly encourage you to do that. So I'm going to go through 5 different kinds of art block that I experience. You'll probably notice that a lot of the experiences with them, a lot of the symptoms kind of run together, but these are the most distinct types that I could probably figure out. So the first kind is burnout. This is when I am just too tired from drawing, probably almost constantly, and maybe I have stuff I'm working on, maybe I have ideas, but I just have no motivation to work on them. So I get this once every few months, usually after a big project that I pushed myself for. It's not uncommon for me to get it around the holidays, right after Huevember or Inktober, or both, depending on what I decided to do. Most recently, I actually got it at the beginning of July after I did those big Pride digital pieces that took a lot of time and energy and effort, and so I was just kind of done with art for a little while after those. So honestly, the best way I find to combat the art burnout is just to go do something else for a while. Don't do something art. I mean, it can be related. Oftentimes I'll pick up a coloring book and work on that because I've got a ton of coloring books. Or you could read or just, find something else that you like to do and go do that for a little while. And eventually you will get inspired to come back to art. So the second type is when I just have no ideas whatsoever. My mind just comes up blank. I mean, there's a vague idea there of something like that I like to draw, but there's just nothing coming out of that, no expansion of what else it could be. And this sometimes comes as a result of burnout, but other times it just sneaks up on me. So there are a few ways you can combat this. The first is, like burnout, just go and do something else for a while. I'm sure, at least I know I have other hobbies, so if you need to go do something else that you enjoy, go do that, and hopefully an idea will come to you. Who knows, maybe you'll be reading a book and you'll want to draw something inspired by that book. Another way is to go find some prompts to use. So there are a lot of websites that you can generate a prompt. There are also books and things that can help you with that. For example, Piccadilly. I'm a huge fan of theirs. They've got all kinds of weird things like 300 drawing prompts or draw this story or continue this drawing, that kind of thing. Another thing you could do is ask any friends or followers what to draw, and they might have an idea, and that idea might expand into something more. You might combine a couple ideas that are fun. For example, that's how we got this idea on one of my friends' streams that we all drew evil sorceresses with guinea pig minions for whatever reason. But, you never know what they can suggest can turn into something very funny. Another idea is just to take that idea that I had very briefly and just roll with it. Like, you feel like drawing a dog, but you don't have any idea of what that dog might be doing. Just draw a dog real quick, and it might be a pretty boring drawing, but at least you've done something. One of my go-to characters for a while was Aiko from the Lunar Chronicles. I really liked drawing her, especially her hair. And when I would be stuck or just needed a stress relief or whatever, I would draw her. And, I would be so inclined to draw her just because I love to draw her, and maybe that's all I do, and it wouldn't necessarily cure my art block, but it would at least make me not feel so discouraged because I had done something that day. Another idea is that when you are inspired and you have like 100 different ideas that you want to do, maybe not 100, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you get the idea, close to that, right? When you feel inspired, go ahead and write down everything you want to do because you can't necessarily do it all at this time. And then when you are feeling stuck, go back and look at that list and pick something out of there to do. Now, I have made this list, but I have not actually ever used it, so I'm really bad at following this advice, but hopefully you guys will be better. So the third kind is what I call art funk. Actually, this is a name that was given to it by a friend of mine. And this is when nothing I draw looks up to my standards. You know, it's not just, oh, I'm bad at drawing hands, because I am bad at drawing hands, and every hand I draw looks bad. No, this is things I know I do well, and I know tend to look pretty good, just aren't looking right, and I can't figure out how to adjust them to make them look right. This is what a lot of people actually call this art block, but I tend to think of art block more along the lines of burnout or just having no ideas. So when this happens to me, I call it I am in an art funk. So it used to happen to me a lot more, particularly in middle school when I started drawing a lot more, and just honestly getting a better eye and learning how to fix mistakes, learning about anatomy and perspective and all that stuff, honestly has helped it to become less frequent. But, every now and then it just sometimes comes back. So one way to combat this, especially if it's on one particular piece, is to put it away for a while, or as someone I knew once said, put it in timeout, and come back to it when it is ready to behave and start looking like a decent art piece. Another thing you could do is try out a totally different style or media that you've never tried before, or maybe it's a style that you only do occasionally. And this is fun because it allows for exploration, and it also kind of takes the pressure off, because if it's something that you don't normally do, there's not necessarily anything for you to compare it to. So if you're having trouble, your art doesn't look like the normal standards that you have for your art. If you do a different style, it's, different from what you normally have, so you don't really have anything to compare it to, so there's no quote-unquote standards there. Another thing, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but another thing you can easily do is just go do something else for a while and come back, and hopefully your artistic ability will return. The fourth kind I debated for a while if I wanted to put in here. I'm not one of those super transparent people, but I thought it might be good in case you can relate to it, and it's a kind of a minor thing anyway. So this is what I call boredom depression. And I call it that because I don't know what else to call it. And it's sort of like burnout, but instead of just not feeling drawing, I just don't feel like doing anything. So it's kind of like the lack of interest symptom of depression, but there's no other symptoms. There might be a little bit of discouragement, but no hopelessness or anything like that. It's just I don't feel like doing any of the things I normally would like to do. And that includes art. So yeah, it's not full-on depression, and I'm not saying this to undermine depression or anything like that. I just don't have another name for it. If you guys have a better name for that, I would love to hear it. For now, it's basically a lack of interest in anything I like, but really nothing else necessarily bad happening, which I suppose is good, just kind of frustrating. So I probably experienced this throughout my life, although I pretty much noticed it more come college, after college, when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And even though, like I said, it's not necessarily the same thing, it felt like a similar kind of symptom, and so I was able to kind of notice it. Surprisingly, I found that this is not linked to my seasonal affective disorder. If anything, it's the opposite. And I think maybe that's just because in the fall you have all those art projects and prompts and challenges and other stuff going on, and it just kind of keeps your momentum up. Whereas when it's in the summer, there's less things keeping me going. I have stuff to do and all that, but it's not like pushing me. So I almost sometimes don't know what to do with myself. So my best advice for this is honestly just to push through it. Now, that's, of course, if you're just feeling this lack of interest in things and not necessarily all the other stuff, because if you're feeling real depression, you should get help. I'm not joking with you. Please get help. Now, maybe this is something frequent, and, sometimes depression can manifest itself in many ways, so even if you're not necessarily feeling that hopelessness, if this comes a lot, also get help. But if it's just something that happens occasionally, like it does to me, the way I find it is just to push through it. And, I know people make fun of people when they say do something you like if you feel depressed, but, if this is the only, again, if it's not real full-on depression, if this is the only thing, push yourself to do something like that. Maybe not necessarily going and drawing, but like reading, watching TV, do something you like, and hopefully that'll pick you up enough to like it again and to want to do it again. Honestly, that's my best advice, except for, obviously, if it's real depression, to get help. But, again, I'm not trying to compare this, quote-unquote, boredom depression to real depression, but it's just the best name I have for it. I'm sorry. Whoa, okay, that got very deep. I was trying to write it so it wouldn't be too deep, but, let's be honest, the subject matter, it probably is. And the final type of art block that I experience, I wouldn't even necessarily call this art block, but I thought I'd talk about it on this video, and that is when I lose interest in a particular piece. And I think everyone will experience this at some point. They will be working on a piece and they just aren't feeling it anymore and they don't want to continue it. And this used to never happen to me, and then one day it just started happening. Honestly, my best way to combat this is just to let the piece go. Now, obviously you can't always do that, like if it's a commission work or if, it's for your job, you can't always do that. But if it's a personal piece you're doing for fun, you are not obliged to finish it. That is a pressure you are putting on yourself, and if you're just not feeling it anymore, it's honestly probably not going to be that good anyway, because you're just not into it. So it's okay to just let it go. If one day you feel like coming back to it, that's great. If not, it's not the end of the world. Hello there, Peppermint Pals! Before we get to the end of this video, I just want to let you all know that I have a Redbubble shop with my original design on things like stationery, apparel, home decor, as well as many other things. If you're interested, it's a great place to pick out gifts or to find something neat for yourself. If there's any of my designs that you think would be a great addition to my Redbubble shop but you don't see it up there, let me know. Thank you, I hope you'll all check it out, and now on to the rest of the video. So thank you all for letting me ramble about the types of art block I experience and the weird names I give to them. Again, this is to start a discussion if you guys want to talk about the kinds of art blocks that you experience or the ways that you deal with it. I encourage you to do so. If there are any more art kind of topics that you want me to cover, go ahead and ask and leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. But anyways, thanks for watching and I will see you all later. Bye!